it will be fun talking to you. You asked me how is my life. Well, you know, I always lived in the fast lane. I mean, my life was never, if for a while things became calm in my life, I felt there was something wrong. So, you know, as someone who challenged himself throughout his life, so this right now, I would say I'm probably facing the biggest challenge of my life. But, you know, every challenge strengthens you. So my belief is that as long as you resist, the Almighty has given us such powers within us that the more you resist, the more you discover your strength. Well, pandemic certainly prepared us for the only way we communicate now is through Zoom. And that's pandemic. We have to thank that, because otherwise either all my senior leadership is in jail or it is in hiding. And so the only way we communicate is through Zoom. So that's the great advantage of the pandemic. Well, Jeremy, 180 and on a daily basis going up. I'm soon to hit my double century. Look, it is sad really in a way, because it's just made a mockery of our whole justice system. Because the guys who are running the show right now, they are so petrified of elections, which are to be held in October, that they are petrified of losing. Because, you know, in the by-elections in the last few months, out of 37 by-elections, we won 30 of them. And remember, this is despite them being supported by the umpires, by the election commission, by the establishment. And so the only way they want to now allow the elections to take place is that I should be in jail or I should be disqualified, because you know, they do not want me in the election race. And hence these cases, and hence this crackdown on my entire party, where, you know, thousands are in jail, and either they're underground or they're in jail. Well, Jeremy, right now, if you're a journalist and you talk about me positively, you will be in trouble. 4 of our top journalists, 4 have left the country. One is on this panel right now, Mohit Pirzada. But then one of our best last year, he was slapped with sedition cases and so on, and he had to leave the country, and then he was murdered in Kenya. And I think that's one of the most tragic things that happened, because he was our best investigative journalist. Meanwhile, the other outstanding journalist in our country, who has the highest viewership on YouTube, he's disappeared for 2 months. So, you know, no one knows. Yeah, Imran Riaz, he's disappeared, and his wife and his children, what they must be going through right now. You know, when you don't know where they are, if you know they're in prison, at least you know where they are. But when they disappear, I think people go through the worst nightmare, as his family is going through. Well, they've been threatened. The media houses and the top anchors were all called in a meeting. The meeting was very short, 4 minutes, I'm told, and they were ordered that my name was not even to be mentioned on the media. It's, you know, Jeremy, if it wasn't so tragic, it's very funny what's going on. But it is tragic because, you know, our media, in the last 20 years especially, it really became very vibrant. In fact, went overboard at times. But, you know, the media was able to create this sort of public awareness about political issues that never existed before. And that's the only way someone like me, an outsider, was able to win the elections. My party only grew because of the free media, the vibrant media. And so, you know, the pillars of democracy, one is free media, the other is independent justice system. Same thing happened with our judiciary. In 2007, this movement started called the lawyers' movement. And the whole idea was that we needed to have an independent justice system. So we were progressing towards a genuine democracy. And then comes this situation right now where we now have, the worst type of martial law. I mean, it's an undeclared martial law right now. Basically, there is no democracy left in Pakistan. Well, General Musharraf's martial law, and that was from 1999 to 2008. Now, I was his opponent. I was in the opposition. I went to jail for about 7-8 days during his martial law. But I'm telling you, that was liberal compared to what is going on right now. I mean, this is, I feel as if it's like, what people must have felt in Stalin's Soviet Union or Nazi Germany. I mean, people get picked up in the middle of the night. If they're not there, their relatives get picked up. Their houses get broken. They get robbed. Their businesses are shut. And this is anyone who has anything to do with PTI. I'm not even talking about the senior leadership. And it's happening to the workers. I mean, it's never happened in our country before. Totally, the media is controlled. The judiciary is under extreme pressure. And I must say, some of the judges, despite the pressure, are sort of giving us whatever little relief we get. But I mean, all civil liberties have gone out of the window. Well, I was sitting within the precincts of the Islamabad High Court, and I was sitting there to get my bail, or various bails, because every day I have my going to courts is like people going to the office. So every day I have to go to one court or the other when you have over 180 cases. So I was sitting there, and suddenly, I'm sitting in the registry office, and suddenly I see these commandos. Really, they weren't even rangers, they were commandos. And I thought, first of all, because my life is at risk according to the government, my life is at great risk. So the courts had asked them to give me protection. So I thought these guys had come to protect me, that there might be some terrorist hold up there. And then I discovered it was me who they were after. And so they really broke in, they beat up everyone. They beat up the lawyers, the staff there. They didn't drag me out like I was some sort of a terrorist. And it was all illegal. And later declared by the Supreme Court of Pakistan, declared it unconstitutional and illegal, the way they abducted me. And of course, those images, when they went out, it had a reaction. Well, when I was asked by the Supreme Court, they told them to bring me to the Supreme Court. So from the prison, I went to Supreme Court. And the first time I discovered that there had been violence was when the Chief Justice asked me, that he said, "Do you condone this violence?" So I had no idea that there had been violence. I expected there would have been protests. But, when I was shot, and about 11 of our people had bullet wounds, one of the bystanders was killed. Even then there were protests, but there was no violence or there was no arson. So I was quite shocked when I was told by the Supreme Court, and I immediately, of course, condemned it. Because in my 27 years, I've always urged my party always to remain within the Constitution, our right for peaceful protest, but never violence. So as things unfolded, Jeremy, unfortunately later on, we discovered that these people were embedded within us. And the ones who indulged in arson were not PTI people. They were people who were specially embedded within our ranks, and they are the ones who indulged in violence. And since then, we've been calling for an independent investigation, but we're not getting it, because we can prove, if there was an independent investigation, we can prove that these guys were not part of our party, because our party had never believed in violence. But unfortunately, that was used as a pretext. We feel it was pre-planned, the whole thing. Within 48 hours, 10,000 of our followers were put in prison. This can't happen unless it's pre-planned. You can't just go and pick up 10,000 people. So all this was planned. Senior leadership was put in jail, and the rest just went underground. So it was used as a pretext to dismantle the party. Yes, well, right now in the Supreme Court, I have gone, other people have gone into the Supreme Court against military courts. The case is still in the Supreme Court, but the ministers of the ruling party have actually stated that if the Supreme Court gives a verdict against military courts, the government would defy it. Just like they defied when the Supreme Court announced Punjab elections on the 14th of May, according to the Constitution, the government refused. So we don't know what will happen, but clearly, I mean, there's no room for military courts in a democracy.
Where anyone who leaves PTI.
Well, Jeremy, let me tell you what's going on right now. Now it's a race against time. The tenure of this government ends on the 12th of August. Now what they're trying to do is...
1 month.
Yeah, just under a month. So what they're trying to do is that they want to have me banned and put into prison before the 11th of August or 12th of August. And so I have these cases and these judges, the special appointed judges who are now hearing my cases, really speedy trials going on. And the whole idea is that I should be out of the race before the caretaker government comes in and the election campaign starts. Now, the problem with that is that, the cases that they're going to try and have me convicted in, they are no cases. These are bogus cases. So if they go, but what they want is that they will have me convicted, and then when I go to appeal for the higher court, by the time the appeal will be heard, the elections would be over, so I would be out of the race. So this is the game plan, and also put me in prison so that I can't campaign. All I think, my view on this is that what they are trying to do is they will completely discredit our democratic system in trying to dismantle and not allow a party which has over 70% rating in Pakistan today. So the biggest political party in the country with basically almost 70% of the people behind it, if you try and make sure that it is out of the race, basically you're dismantling the democracy of the country. And that's really what they're planning to do. And all I'm hoping is that some sense will prevail somewhere along the line, because all that would do is it will destabilize the country. The country desperately needs political stability, which will then lead to economic stability. But all what they're trying to do is actually, it's going to cause more destabilization. But there's a panic amongst those who are in power that somehow, whatever happens, I should not be allowed to come back into power. Look, Jeremy, the problem is someone like me, they really find very difficult to place me. So at one end I've been called, and a whole election campaign against me was that I was part of a Jewish lobby, a Jewish conspiracy to take over Pakistan. And then a whole campaign that I was Taliban Khan. So I was, a supporter of Taliban. And then a whole campaign for last few years, I was I was pro-army, a stooge of the military, and now I'm supposed to be anti-military. So I think, people find it easy to categorize people before maligning them. So, it depends where you stand in the political spectrum. Then accordingly, then they brand you like, Jewish lobby and so on. Point is, the saddest thing is that, my God is Rabbul Alameen. He's God of all human beings, and our Prophet, Muhammad, peace be upon him, was a mercy for all mankind, not Muslims. So, my religion is a universal religion. It is to bring people together, human beings together. And, very narrow-minded people, unfortunately, always, non-leaders I call it, non-leaders always do their politics by hatred, through hatred, by by demonizing one community to get votes. So you find, non-leaders dividing humanity to come into power, whereas you have someone like, our Prophet, peace be upon him. The first constitution of Medina was where all the various religions were brought together by him. So Christians, Jews, Sabians, they were all brought together under one millet, or sort of one community. And they all had their rights, and all the rights, they were allowed to practice their religion and so on. So it was a very advanced civilization that was set up in the state of Medina. And I find it, people like Nelson Mandela, for me, these are genuine leaders who actually brought human beings together, because people like us who saw I used to play cricket, and South Africa then was apartheid state. And I played with South African cricketers, and I always thought that, one day there would be bloodshed in South Africa. But it was a leader who actually stopped the bloodshed by forgiving the ones who put him through so much, 27 years of his time in jail, and then he comes back and forgives everyone. So these are genuine leaders who bring humanity together.